Professor Safnil Arsiat, who has invited me to become a guest lecturer in University of Bengkulu today, even though I'm now in Jakarta. Okay, but again, we can interact with this communicative media, just Zoom. Thank you, everyone, for participating in today's talk. So I will talk about an issue which I think is quite a contemporary topic in sociolinguistics. And I hope we can interact, okay? We can discuss. I do hope that you can ask questions, you can share your experiences as well, okay? So that we can enrich our discussions today about sociolinguistics. Prof. Safnil, allow me to share the screen.
Okay, yes. Sorry. I'll make you the host, right?
Okay, thank you, Prof.
Yeah. Okay. No, sorry. Share recording host. Okay, Professor No, you are now the host. Okay. Okay, we can see the slide.
Okay, right. Is it clear for everyone?
Yes, it is clear.
All right, thank you. Now I will discuss an issue related to a contemporary phenomena in sociolinguistic study, which is here called a sociolinguistics of mobility and language speakers resourcefulness. So a sociolinguistics of mobility is a term which was coined by the Belgian scholar named Jan Bloemaert. Okay, so Jan Bloemaert sees what he calls a phenomenon, a global phenomenon, in terms of a sociolinguistics of globalization. Now, this is the 3 points that we shall discuss today. First of all, we will look at and examine the mundane sociolinguistics phenomena in diverse settings. Okay, we will see what sociolinguistic phenomena exist in diverse settings. And then we will discuss this phenomena from the perspectives of a sociolinguistics of mobility, as well as from the point of view of speakers' resourcefulness. Okay, what these 2 terms means, we will later discuss it further. Last but not least, we will look at the implications of this sociolinguistics of mobility and resourcefulness. We will look at the this phenomenon. What implication are they for English language teaching, particularly in a local context? Now, what I mean by local context here is that relatively from the point of view of the point of view of students, okay, who lives in Bengkulu, teachers who live in Bengkulu, as well as teachers or students who live in Cambodia, right? Okay. Now, I will give you a few minutes to observe. Is it clear? Can you, is the latest here readable? Is the slide here readable?
Yes.
Yes, Pak.
Yes,
Okay. All right. Now, please spend a few minutes, around 5 minutes, to have a look at this conversation. I took this from Pennycook and Otsuji in their book, Metrolingualism, okay, language in the city. Look at this excerpt. This conversation took place at the Sydney produce market. Okay, this is a conversations between Muhib, Talib, and a passerby. Okay, in a busy market in Sydney. Hey, Johnny, fix up the stand. Here, move these cherry tomatoes, put them with them. Let them do it. Let them do hawk's breath. If you want to do anything, if my dad's not doing it, start here. Okay. And then T, Khalid say, I'm not sure whether I pronounce this correctly. Et ada calapak, etnan, meaning how much did it cost you? Two. And then Muhib says, sorry, tanan, dollar. Okay. And then after 10 seconds pause, there is a phone conversations between Khalid and passerby. Okay. And Muhib in line 4, line 5, line 6. Khalid says, Joe, good morning. Can you send me one ras, one blues, please? Thank you very much. See you, buddy. Call is on special. $70 and $60. Okay. What do you call it? $2. And then passerby says that Salamu alaikum. Salamu alaikum, mate. Okay, peace be upon you. And Muhib responds by saying wa alaikum salam, peace upon you too. Now I give you 5 minutes, okay, to reflect on this conversations, and then try to link this from the perspective of sociolinguistics of mobility and language resourcefulness. Even though you are not familiar with this term, try to make a guess, okay, from this conversation. You may take a few notes here, okay, so that we can discuss later. You can take a few notes to if you got the ideas, okay, of this, and then you want to discuss later with the class, it's a good idea if you take some notes related to your answers. Okay. All right. Now, is there someone who'd like to comment on this brief excerpt of a conversation? Anyone?
Yeah, please mute yourself. Anybody, students? Chinda, can you say something about this example?
And anything that you would like to comment from this conversation?
Yep.
Yeah.
Is there something? Yes. Chinda?
Yeah, Pak. Do you hear me, Pak?
Yes, yes. Go on.
Okay. Pak, I would like to clarify the question that you like to give the comment on the conversation, Pak.
All right. Okay. If you observe these conversations between Muhib, Talib, and Pesabai, okay, and here these three people are in the Sydney produce market, right? They interact with each other using English, okay, and at the same time they insert the Arabic language here. Now, in terms of sociolinguistics of mobility, we will discuss the terms later, okay? I give you the clue, the terms sociolinguistics of mobility and resourcefulness, okay? Speakers' resourcefulness. What do you comment on this? Is there something odd? Is there something strange from these conversations? Let's observe, for instance, line 2. At the Calapak, Vietnam, and sorry, okay, kanan dollar, right? And in line 5, for instance, Pesabai greets the people here, greets Muhib here by using Arabic greeting, Assalamualaikum, mate. What happens here in this conversation? Is it normal?
I see, Pak. Actually, in this three section,
Pardon?
in this three speaker conversation it seems not normal because the language they use is not only single language, but they use a mixed language, or we can say they use code mixed
All right.
shift language.
Okay. Is it normal? So in the context of English, okay, as a foreign language, like I'm not sure in Cambodia, English is also a foreign language, right?
Yes,
Right.
we see it as a foreign language. But
Okay. So when we learn English, we learn only the standard English, right?
Yeah.
We only
sure.
learn standard English, and it is very common to see that when you learn English, just use English exclusively. Don't mix English with other languages. Okay, but in everyday sociolinguistics activity like this, everyday phenomenon like this, then we can see here people mix languages. Okay, between here in this case English and Arabic. Okay, English and Arabic.
Yeah.
Right. So it might if you have been learning standard English for a long time ago, then if you look at here at this example, people it seems strange, right? Why do you mix these languages? Assalamualaikum, mate. Right? You see here. Okay, Assalamualaikum is an Arabic, but mate here is English, right?
Mm.
Okay, and tanan dollar, yeah, $2, right? Okay, any other response? So it is people mix languages, right? Any other response, please?
Sorry, sir. Do
Yes.
they have the same knowledge or the background knowledge of the languages? I mean, are they both knowing about the what is the Arabic and English as well?
Yeah, they are. They come from Muhib and Talib. Here they are Arabians, right? And they own a stall. They own a stall at the Sydney Produce Market. Yeah, they own a stall at this in Sydney's Produce Market. So here, Penny Cook and Otsuji observe. They recorded this conversation. Okay, in Sydney.
So if the background is the background of the speakers are the same, it is not strange for them. It's not strange for them, but it's strange or it is normal for the hearer, for the listener to the three speaker, because the hearer or the listener to the three speaker is not, they didn't hear the same background of language used as the three speaker. As well as the three speakers, they have the same background of language use. Like they also know English and they also Arabian, also know Arabian. So that's why they can switch the language use while they speaking by insert Arabian and English together. However, the other speaker in the conversation, they still understand what their mates are speaking about or mention about. That's my idea. About.
So if you look at line 1, Muhib speaks in English, right? But in line 2, Talib responds using Arabic, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So these two stall owners migrated in Sydney, and they opened a stall, okay, in Sydney Produce Market. Okay. Now because they live in Australia, they speak English, right? But their background is because they are Arabians. They use Arabic, and they mix both English and Arabic. Okay. Now this is the first example. Okay, at Sydney Produce Market. Now I will take you to Indonesian's classroom, Indonesian's setting. This is an interactions between teacher and student, okay, recorded by my former students when she did her thesis, and I quoted this excerpt between teacher and student. The context is the teacher here is teaching imperative, okay, teaching English imperative to students. So students, let's finish about the report text. Okay, this is just the excerpt. Imperative sentences. So the teachers write on the board what imperative sentences are. And then the teacher says, some of you have already known. Mungkin ada yang sudah tahu about imperative sentences. Atau mungkin ada yang tidak tahu. Please give your opinion about the imperative. Try to understand first. Mengerti dulu ya. Right? Now here catatannya lengkap, tidak mengerti ya podo wae. Perhatikan dulu kalimatnya. Okay. Now maybe Cenda speaks Indonesian. Mungkin ada yang sudah tahu. Probably there are students who know. Atau mungkin ada yang tidak tahu. Probably some students don't know about imperative. Mengerti dulu ya. Try to understand first. Catatannya lengkap. Tidak mengerti. If you have a complete notes, but you don't understand, then it's just the same. This is basically what it means, Cenda. Now, perhatikan dulu kalimatnya. Observe the sentences. And then the teacher say, oh, ini tuh namanya. Oh, this is order of instruction. Now, the teachers finally ask, which one? Verb 1, verb 2, verb 3. And the students say verb 1. Teachers response, verb 1, good. Other instructions may begin with verb 1. Always verb, kata kerja dasar. Kerja dasar ya, right. Now here in this context, this is a classroom context. And you know that most of the schools in Indonesia, okay, they strictly impose the English only policy, right? They exclusive, most of the schools, okay, not all, probably impose the English only policy. But interestingly, the teachers here in the classroom setting, the teachers here uses 3 languages at the same time. Okay, he used English and Indonesian, and his local dialect here is Japanese, right? Catatannya lengkap, tidak mengerti ya podo wae, right? What happens here? Can you guess before we discuss the concept? Here again, teachers and the teacher switches linguistic codes. English, Indonesian, and at the same time, Japanese. Okay, maybe I will discuss other slides so that
Can I say something, Pak?
Yeah, sure.
I think what happened is actually teacher teach English, right, Pak?
Yeah.
Okay. Actually, teacher teach English to the class, but while he's giving instruction, he could not reflect with the word in English. Example, like the word, like he said in the conversation, immediately, so he insert or he encode another language that come up with his brain quickly to the student. This might make the student more understand.
Okay. All
In
right.
short, because of in short, because of a reflection word, that's why he cannot reflect with the word in English. That's why he use his own native English or another like Javan, right? Java
Japanese, right,
English,
Japanese.
Java
Okay.
words in it. Yeah, Japanese. Yeah, but
All right. Okay, thank you, Chenda. If you teach English
yeah, but
class, okay, this is do you often switch English with Indonesians and even with your local dialects?
Yes, Pak.
Yes,
Yes,
couple of times.
Okay, all right. So in that case, then this is normal, right? And that's why this is called. That's why I call this a sociolinguistic phenomena, right? Mandan is everydayness. That is, it is normal. Okay, it is normal for us. It's Mandan. All right. Okay. Now look at this. I spotted this in the Phnom Penh, in the internet. Here, Warung Bali, right, in the Phnom Penh city. Because Prof. Safnil texted me yesterday that there are Cambodian students who attended this talk. So I try to search, okay, certain linguistic landscapes in the Phnom Penh city, and I found this Warung Bali. Is this the Khmer language, Chenda?
the first language about the English is Khmer, and the second one is English, and the last one.
Yeah, the first is Khmer. Khmer.
No. The second one, yeah.
Yeah, the first one is Khmer, right? What does it mean?
But
Yeah, problems with connections, I think. Okay, anyway.
in Khmer we say hang Bali, Pak.
Pardon?
Hang Bali.
Hang Bali.
What does it mean?
Yeah,
The word hang means shop.
hang.
Oh, shop. Okay.
Say
And
hang
the
Bali, it
the
means
second
Bali,
one?
Bali
the
shop.
name of the
In
shop.
English, Bali
Okay.
shop.
All right. Bali shop, right? Bali
Yeah,
shop.
yeah,
All right.
yeah,
Okay.
that's
Anyway,
Yes.
now here, this is again a Mandan sociolinguistic phenomena. I mean that people, this is normal for people to see this languages are mixed together, right? Are mixed together, and even languages, certain phrases, okay, certain linguistic codes are borrowed, okay, in other situations like this. This is Warung Bali is actually Indonesian's words, but when you visit Phnom Penh city, for instance, you can see this Warung Bali, right? So it's Mandan, it's normal. All right. This is in the context of the Phnom Penh city. Okay. Now, are you familiar with this? Have you when you visit a shopping mall in Bengkulu, for instance? I'm not sure whether you can find this.
No, not in Bengkulu.
Pardon?
No, in Bengkulu.
Not in Bengkulu, Pak Prof. Sarne.
No, I don't think
Two
so.
resorts. Two resorts. But if you come to Jakarta and you visit a shopping mall later after the pandemic, or maybe you can of course see this in the internet. there are plenty of these signs. Okay, if you visit big shopping malls in Jakarta and the greater Jakarta as well, in the greater Jakarta, two zones. Can you guess what does this mean? What is it? Two zones. Who knows French here?
It's a cafe.
It's a cafe, okay. A good guess. Others, please. How do you know this is a cafe, Arin?
Because I have ever seen in the internet, because it's a place to sell the cake, maybe.
All right. Okay, you have seen this from the internet, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Unless you have seen this from the internet, I guess you won't be able to answer. I had two results,
Yeah.
right? Okay,
Yeah.
good. Because Arin has seen this from the internet. All right. Who knows French here? Nobody knows French?
Just few words, but I
Yeah.
don't know few words.
Pardon?
I know French only few words.
Okay. I don't know French either. Okay. But two resource here, Arin is right. This is an Asian French bakery shop. This is a bakery shop, right? You are right, Arin. So again, if you visit shopping malls in big cities, okay. Now, if you get starving, for instance, this is probably one possible places for you to visit, okay, because this shop sells an assortment of cakes, bakery, and beverages as well. So this is the term is French, right? Tous les jours. When I open the internet, tous means every, okay, and les jours mean days. So every day, right? The meaning is every day. But unfortunately, it seems strange. What is the relations between every day, the terms tous les jours, and the bakery? Okay. For me, it's rather strange, but later we will discuss this further. So I have, first of all, presented the phenomena. Later we will discuss it together, okay? What this phenomena mean in terms of sociolinguistic of globalization, sociolinguistics of mobility, and resourcefulness. Okay. Here again, other examples that I took from the late Professor Kaidar Al-Wasila. And you see here in Al-Wasilah writing, Al-Wasilah mix several languages, okay? So this is Arabic, right? Okay, is it Arabic? Right. Okay, Shahadat and Shalat, Shahum, and Zakat, right? This is Arabic words, and Al-Wasilah mix this with English. And second example here is also Al-Wasilah use Arabic phrase, Rahmatan lil alamin, right? Okay, he himself was proclaimed by Allah Almighty. Okay, you see here English and Arabic as Rahmatan lil alamin, mercy for the whole universe. Okay, if you later read Al-Wasilah's writing, because Al-Wasilah was a Sundanese, he also mixed Sundanese language with English. Okay, so suffice it to say here, Al-Wasilah in his writing, mix English with Arabic. This is very interesting to me, okay? And this is part of my research. Now, another example is from, this is from academic discourse, okay? Previous examples from, this is from linguistic landscape, okay, public places. But here is academic discourse. Now, in the academic discourse, it is also normal, it is also mundane, okay, to find that writers mix languages. Okay, in this case, late Professor Al-Wasila, in which he mixed English and Arabic. And now here, the late Professor Darjo Wijoyo also mixed English with his native language, that is Japanese. Okay, so Professor Al-Wasila mix, Professor Darjo Wijoyo mix English with Indonesian and Japanese. Okay, this is also part of my research that I have published in the Journal of Asia TEFL. You can get the article from the Journal of Asia TEFL in 2015. Now, if you look here, Darjo Wijoyo deliberately mix Indonesian word lurah, that is maybe Chenda doesn't know. Lurah is the village head. Okay, the village head is lurah, and then camat is the regency head, right? And bupati, okay, bupati is regent, right? Bupati is regent actually here. Now, this is Indonesian, okay, lurah, camat, and bupati. But in the second sentence, Darjo Wijoyo mix with his local Japanese, euh pakeu, right? Euh pakeu means that euh pakeu means feeling uncomfortable. Okay, that's euh pakeu. Feeling uncomfortable because of someone needs to be respected, so you feel uncomfortable, for instance, if you want to criticize someone who is highly respected. That is basically what means by euh pakeu. Now here the last sentence is teacher must be the gugu, right? This is trusted. This is also Japanese word ditiru, right? Okay. Now, this happens in academic discourse. Okay. Are you familiar with this? I'm sure you are familiar with this. Okay. What does the first symbol mean? I think you can answer this perfectly well. This is also mundane.
Like.
Like, right, okay. And the second one?
Love.
Love, right. And the third one?
Very love.
Pardon?
Mean love.
It's mean care.
Care, all right, care, right. And the third one?
Love.
Love.
Love, right, love. And the last one?
Wow.
Wow. What does it
Surprise.
expressing surprise, right?
Yes.
Right.
Amazing.
How do you know that these symbols represents like, these symbols represents love and care and love and surprise or shock? How do you know this?
Because the signs of the expressions.
Right, the signs of the expressions, right? From this this represents, okay, this represents something. It conveys meaning, right? It conveys meaning. Is this a form? Is this a language?
Yes.
Is this a language?
Yes.
Okay, right. Because it conveys meaning, right? When you use the first symbol with the thumb here, then people already know what does this mean, right? Do you agree with me? When you use the last symbol to express a shock, or surprise, then people knows this, right? Okay. All right. Now, from this phenomena, okay, let us discuss the concept. This is what happens in sociolinguistics of mobility. Now, let's have a look at the definition. What is meant by sociolinguistics from the examples that I have presented here? Sociolinguistic is the study of language as complex resources. Okay, complex as a complex resources of their value, distributions, rights to ownerships and effects. It's not the study of an abstract language like in the Chomskyan sense. Okay, when you learn Chomsky, for instance, when you study Chomsky, language is seen as an abstract entity, is an abstract concept, okay, which is generated from mind, right? That is Chomskyan's definitions of language. However, from the point of view of sociolinguistics of mobility, language is not an abstract entity, it's not an abstract object, but language here is a concrete, okay, is concrete resources, right? So the study of concrete language resources, okay, in which people make different investment, right? And to which they attribute different values and degree of usefulness. Like when we see from the examples, two resources, for instance, two resources, okay? So we can see here that this is not really language in an abstract sense, but here is language in the form of concrete resources. People use two resources, okay, two resources as a resource, right? As a resource. Now, what does this mean? Blumert uses the term resource rather than language, right? If you visit, for instance, two resources, if you visit two resources, probably you don't really care about the meanings of two resources, right? Right? What you care about is that two resources sells bakery. Do you agree with me? When you visit the shop, you don't care what two resources mean. But what you see here is that this two resources sells any kinds of bakery and beverages, any kinds of cakes and beverages. That is enough for me. Okay? I don't want to find out two resources. Okay? I don't want to see two resources unless you are a linguist. Unless you are a linguist and unless you are a student who has French competence. Probably you know the meaning of two resources. But common people are less likely want to find out what two resources mean. Therefore, in this case, that two resource is a resource. It's not a language, right? People don't care about the two resource as a language. In other words, two resource, yes, is semiotic. It carries semiotic meaning rather than meaning. Okay, it's emblematic, it's symbolic, it's emblematic. Okay, because it associates with the bakery rather than with linguistic. That is why Blumert tends to use resource rather than language. Okay. Now, sociolinguistic of mobility sees language in motion rather than language in place. We can see in the Phnom Penh city, we can also see Warung Bali, right? Can you see here Warung Bali? He is originally from Indonesians, right? But it moves to Phnom Penh. By the same token, Toulouse is a French word, right? And the place of its place of origin here is France, right? But Toulouse moves to Jakarta, the greater Jakarta. Here is the case of language in motion. That's why it's the concept of mobility. Language travels, okay? Language travels from one place to other places. Language travels as mobile resources, and communication is shaped by these resources, not immobile languages. Prof. Safnil is Padangnis, right? Prof. Safnil?
Yeah, that's right.
Right. But Prof. Safnil moves to Bengkulu. Okay. So Prof. Safnil moves, and at the same time, Prof. Safnil's linguistic repertoires, Prof. Safnil language also moves to Bengkulu. This is what's meant by mobile resources. Language here travels from one place to other places. Now, and communication, okay, the way we communicate is shaped by these resources, not by immobile languages. And is there a native Bengkulu language? If I may know.
Yeah, there are.
What's the name of native Bengkulu language?
6 or 7 languages.
All right. Okay. Prof. Safnil is Padangnis, but at the same time, Prof. Safnil lived in Bengkulu, and Prof. Safnil is very proficient, I'm sure, in using the Bengkulu languages, right? So here we can see the possibility that Prof. Safnil is very competent in moving, in shifting from one language to other languages, from Padangnis to Bengkulu language, from Indonesian and English as well, right? So here is mobile resources. Okay, so Blumer tends to use resources rather than languages, because languages is immobile. Okay, now language as one instance of the many resources and works in tandem with other resources. Language is only one resource. When you see here, when you see this one, do you regard this as a language? This is a semiotic resources, right? So language is only one. If I don't use language, for instance, if you don't use language, if you don't use verbal repertoire, and you use this semiotic, you use this emoticon, can communications go well? Can communications possible? Can be possible? Yes, right? Because people knows, okay, when you use the symbols in your social media, right? Even if you don't use language and you use this emoticon, this semiotic resource, people will definitely know. Okay, therefore language is only one of the many resources, and of course language works in tandem with other resources. So meaning that you use verbal linguistic functions, and at the same time you mix it with semiotic resources, right? So it's very common. A sociolinguistic of speech of actual language resources deploy in real socio-cultural, historical, and political context. If you social media users, okay, you deploy your actual language, okay, you are very proficient in writing, for instance, a comment on Facebook, right? And social media like Instagram, right? So meaning that this is actual languages, actual language resources that you deploy in sociocultural, historical, and political context. Like the examples of Professor Sunyono and Professor Al-Wasila, they were proficient in deploying their language resources. Okay. Similarly, Professor Safnil also, Professor Safnil speaks Padangni, speak the Bengkulu languages, and speaks English, speak Indonesian as well. Prof. Safnil, when communicating, okay, when communicating, Prof. Safnil is deploying these language resources in real socio-cultural, historical, and political context, right? So this is what is meant by the concept of sociolinguistic, a sociolinguistic of mobility, right? Language is no longer static entity. Language is no longer unitary concept, okay? Because it's difficult now to name certain language, right? If you, for example, consider this, if you, for instance, consider this one, if you consider this example, what language is this? Is this English? Is this Arabic? Look at the Al-Wasilah writing here. If people ask you, what language is this?
Arabic.
Pardon?
Arabic.
Arabic?
Arabic and English.
Pardon? Is this English? So from the context, from the point of view of sociolinguistic of mobility, okay, the concept of name languages, the concept of labeled languages has been problematized by scholars, by academics. Why? Because it's now getting difficult to say whether this is English or whether this is Arabic. Okay, so they problematize the notions of label languages. It's difficult. It's gonna be difficult to label these languages, right? Now, this is the idea of sociolinguistic of mobility. If Prof. Safnil speaks Padangnis, and at the same time, Prof. Safnil also insert local Bengkulu dialects, what language Prof. Safnil is speaking? If Prof. Safnil switches from Padangnis to Bengkulu dialects, people might ask Prof. Safnil, what language Prof. Safnil is speaking? Is it Padangnis, or is it Bengkulu dialects or Bengkulu language? And when Prof. Safnil switched to English, for instance, and Indonesian, what is the name of the language? Now, from the point of sociolinguistic of mobility, it's no longer easy to identify certain languages. Yes, Arin, do you want to ask questions?
Okay, can we call that as metrolingualism, because it describes the ways in which people of different and mixed background use language, negotiate identities through the language, rather than assuming connections between language and culture? It's explore how such relations are produced, resist, and divide or rearrange. Its focus is not a language system, but on language as emergent from the context of interactions. For if we took the example Japanese, Indonesian, Arabic, that actually if in the formal sentence, I think that incorrect. But if in metrolingualism, that's we can use that because we see from the context of the sentence.
Right, you are right. So I like the idea of emergent. You said emergent, right? So
Yeah.
from the context of sociolinguistics of mobility, for instance, in Bengkulu, how many? I'm not sure whether Bengkulu people who live Bengkulu are native Bengkulu?
No.
No, Pak.
No. Can you mention their ethnicities? For Prof. Safnil, for instance, is I know he comes from Padang. Okay. Beside Padang, what are the ethnicities? People who live in Bengkulu.
Medan.
Medan, for instance, right? So you see here, this is the context of super diversity. Okay, super diversity means that people comes from different ethnicities, come from different languages, they come from different geographical areas. They form a new community. When they form a new community, they mix languages, they mix cultures, right? They mix languages, they mix culture. Now it's become difficult for us. It's become difficult for us to identify. Okay, whose culture is this, and whose languages are this? Because they mix. Okay, this is what is meant super diversity. It's difficult to identify. Okay, so the idea of like diaspora, for instance, the diaspora community, people form a new community. Okay, and this new community, they use any kinds of languages, right? They mix their ethnicities, becoming difficult for us, okay, to identify. Now the last point is that the language, okay, is often fragmented. The language is often incomplete, and the language is truncated. This is called truncated language repertoire. And Blumart calls this truncated multilingualism. Okay, what does it mean by fragmented? Now, it means like this. People take bits and pieces of diverse languages. They take bits and pieces of diverse languages because they want to show their new identities in a certain community. They want to show their own new identities in a certain community. They just simply take bits and pieces of chunks of languages from diverse languages. They communicate, resulting in fragmented, incomplete, and truncated language repertoire. People don't have a full command. People don't have a complete performance. Okay, they don't have advanced linguistic performance, but they can communicate. Okay, like the example of this one. Okay. This could be the case. This could be the case. The teachers, okay, don't have advanced proficiency in explaining full in English, right? This is an example of truncated. Okay, you might see that. Look at the example, the last one. Other instructions may begin with verb one, always verb kata dasar, kerja dasar, right? So if you look at this, you might see that the teachers here, the teachers' communication here, the teachers' language is truncated. It's not complete, it's fragmented. Such a phenomenon is called truncated multilingualism. It means that people do not always have advanced proficiency in English or in certain languages, but they are able to communicate because they want to show their new identities. Any questions so far? Please.
Okay, any question? Okay, Prof. Setiono, from politeness point of view,
Yeah.
For example, if I teach using Indonesian in this class and Chenda, Lee Sofan, and some pros don't understand it, they may think that I am not polite. Is it also the case in social communication, not from education point of view?
Sorry, Prof. Sapnil, can you repeat again?
Okay, hang on. From the politeness point of view,
Okay.
the use of different languages that maybe the people involved in the conversation don't understand.
Okay.
Like in this class, yeah, Chenda, Lee Sofan, and some pros don't speak Indonesian. So if I speak Indonesian, they may consider that I am impolite. So does it happen as well in daily conversation in multilingual society?
That when I read the politeness theory, Prof.
Yeah.
Sapnil,
Yeah.
The politeness here, the notions of politeness here is understood not only from the speaker's point of view, but also from the hearer's point of view, Prof. Sapnil. So impolite or polite in terms of the speakers or in terms of the hearer. It could be the case that what is considered impolite from the points of view of the hearers might not be polite or impolite from the points of view of the speaker. So that's the context of the context of the notions of politeness. Polite or impolite in terms of the speaker or in terms of the hearer. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So, Chenda, if I use Indonesian in teaching, do you think that I am impolite? Chenda or Sampos or?
No, but
No.
no, but
So it's okay if I use a few sentences.
because some
Yeah. Go on, Chenda.
but sometimes when you use only in English in
Problem solved. Yeah.
teaching,
Now we can really hear you, Chenda.
sometimes it make our classmate or our student misunderstand. So in our teaching as well as okay, but that's one part and some word through your teaching by including or by inserting the language. I mean the Indonesian language also.
Okay.
I never
supposedly
think about it. But don't worry.
Supposedly, if supposedly
But don't do
there
it
is a
too much.
Okay, thank you, Chenda. Thank you. Yeah. Go on, Pak Prof. Setiono.
yeah, supposedly there is tension. There is a tensions in communication, Chenda. For instance, with Professor Sapnil, because Professor Sapnil uses bahasa Indonesia. How would you resolve the tension? For instance, you feel, oh, to me this is not really polite. For instance, okay, how would you resolve the tension here?
In the teaching or learning, I don't feel that it is impolite or something else. But what I can resolve is I will ask the lecturer or ask my friend what our lecturer said or mentioned about it. And then most of my classmates are always helpful. In like translating or helping by giving the explanation of what happened during the classroom. So I really enjoyed.
Okay.
I really enjoyed the class. Yeah. Pak.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Jenda.
Yeah.
All right, I will continue now here. This is an example of mobility. Conceptual example of mobility here can be read in Suresh Kanagaraja's book Translingual Practice. Okay, what does translingual practice means? First of all, the concept of translingual practices is based on the following assumption. Okay, it treats semiotic resources as being closely aligned to communication, meaning that when you communicate, you do not always use verbal, but gestures, body postures, right? Okay, symbols, right? So this resources, this semiotic resources, is closely aligned to verbal linguistic repertoire. Okay, you do not always use language. In other words, you do not always linguistic expression, but you can also use semiotic resources, and they work in tandem. Language is treated as mobile resources and no longer subscribing to the idea of territorialization. Like tous les os, for instance. Tous les os has been delocalized. Tous les os comes from French. It is a French word. It's a French phrase. But when tous les os moves to other places like in Jakarta, then it has become deterritorialized. Right? Warung Bali, for instance. For people in Cambodia, when they go to Warung Bali, they don't really concerns with the place of the origin of this Warung Bali, right? But they the words Warung Bali has been deterritorialized in the Phnom Penh city, right? So it's gonna be difficult to identify the place of the origin in the context of super diversity. Treating communities and communication as heterogeneous, complex, okay, and super diverse. Okay, for instance, in urban spaces. And that's why Penny Cook and Otsuji coined the notions of metro-lingualism. Okay, so today's community is very complex, it's super diverse, right? People coming from different ethnicities, people coming from different territories, right? They mix into one community. They mingle into one community, one new community. And in this new community, people mix languages, right? They mix even mix cultures, right? So it's gonna be difficult to identify. Now, understanding communicative activities as fully material, treating diverse objects, artifacts, and physical nature as shaping meaning. Do you agree with this? I will provide the example here. Communicative activities as fully material, treating diverse objects, artifacts, and physical nature as shaping meaning. I will provide the example. This is a student. So I have a doctorate student, and this doctorate students has student, right? And this students is is doing a drama performance, okay, is writing a drama script. This student is writing drama script. Okay. Now, when this student is writing the drama script, what happens here? What is this student doing? This student is aligning herself with the objects, artifacts, okay, in order to shape meaning in the script, right? So in other words, this students is treating material objects, right, to shape meaning. What kinds of material objects can be found here? Laptop, right? Whiteboard, right? And then markers, right? So here is the concept of alignment. So the students make meaning by aligning herself to material objects surrounding her. What are the material objects here? Laptop, whiteboard, and markers. This is the concept of spatial repertoire. So sociolinguists today are becoming eager to theorize the concept of the spatial repertoire. It's not just linguistic repertoire, but also space. Okay, spaces becomes very important for people, for language users to communicate, okay, their meaning. Another example from Kanagaraja here. If you look at these examples, this is what Kanagaraja calls spatial repertoires. People can negotiate meaning, people can make meaning, okay, by aligning themselves, okay, by aligning themselves to the objects, to the artifacts surrounding him. Look at this. What is the artifacts? The artifact is a blackboard, right? And then the chalkboard. Yeah, right. So look at A, B, C, D, and E here. In A, this guy is explaining. In B, he is pausing to think. In C, is pulling back from the board. Look at the matrices and wiping face to buy times, right? And longing at the board. All right. You see here, communication is very complex in this case. Communications is very complex in the sense that people not just relies on their cognitive capacity, right? But they align themselves with semiotic resources surrounds them. This is the way people make meaning, and therefore we are going back to this concept. When you communicate, then you engage. You are engaged with objects surrounds you, with the material surrounds you, with the artifacts surrounds you, and this shapes meaning. That is the idea of translingual practice. Therefore, human beings are very complex. When we perform communicative activities, we are very resourceful. Here, the concept of language speakers resourcefulness. Communications becomes possible not because we adhere to global or regional norms, but because language users are able to bring their communications into alignment with each other. Okay. In communication, speakers are able to achieve communicative purposes as desired. They negotiate tensions that might occur in communication. They shuttle between linguistic codes to make sense of what he intends to communicate. And finally, align himself with other linguistic resources. This is what is meant by resourcefulness. Speakers are resourceful. Okay, they especially when you write in social medias. Okay, you show your resourcefulness. You are not just using language, you are not just using verbal linguistic repertoires, but you also use other semiotic resources. Okay, what are the implications for language teaching? Students ought to be made aware of the fact standard English is only one varieties. Okay, standard English is only one of language varieties to be taught. Students also need to be taught other emerging varieties of Englishes in diverse localities. So I think it's good. It's a good idea if you can research whether emerge certain varieties of Englishes in Bengkulu. Okay, so you can research this, right? And if it turns out there is or there are varieties of Englishes in Bengkulu, then it's necessary for you to teach this to your students. So you do not always teach standard language, standard English all the time, but also it's important for you to know. It's important for you to let your students know. Here there are emerging Englishes, emerging varieties of Englishes in the Bengkulu context, right? So the second one, teaching linguistic differences is enriching. It's not debilitating. Okay, by teaching linguistic differences, then you enrich the perspectives, your student perspectives, and even you as your teachers, you as the teachers can also enrich your own perspective. Okay, it's not debilitating. It's not harmful to teach linguistic differences. Students always bring with them their linguistic repertoires and other semiotic resources in studying languages, and teachers must acknowledge and respect this. Okay, so if your students, when you teach English, for instance, when you teach English to your students, and your students use their own native languages, they mix their own native languages, then it is normal. Okay, it's very normal. So you must respect this. It's not a science of linguistic deficiency. Okay. So like the examples that we have learned before, this is not a science of linguistic deficiency. Language teachers need to help students develop these repertoires in alignment with other semiotic resources, so as to make them proficient in shuttle between languages. This is the implications for language teaching in today's discussion. No one has exclusive rights to the language. Anyone who speaks it has the right to own it. Okay. Now, on being a user of English, to be a really proficient, one has to be multi-dialectal. Prof. Safnil is an example of multi-dialectal scholar. He speaks Padangese, he speaks the Bengkulu languages, he speaks English, he speaks Indonesian. This is what is meant by multi-dialectal. If you want to be proficient, then you must be multi-dialectal. Okay. Now, as a teacher, I think developing resourceful speakers is what we are aiming at in language education. Resourceful. Here are the references that might be of interest to you to enrich your perspectives on the idea of sociolinguistics in this contemporary world. Okay.
Oh,
Thank you very much. If
okay.
you have any questions, please.
Yeah, thank you very
We'll,
much, Prof.
discuss
Sutiano.
together.
Okay, now question. Yeah, do you have any question? Okay, let me start. Pak Setiono, in Bengkulu, there is a place called Pintu Batu. Yeah,
Okay.
Pintu door, Batu stone. And I see somewhere, yeah, and they just translate it into door stone, not stony door. How do we consider this? How do we look at this? This is just a variety or a mistake?
Okay. When we are talking about translingualisms, the translingualism is actually is a very complex concept actually. Now people when people mix languages or when people translate certain languages, they have their own communicative purposes, Prof. Safnil. Now in your case, I'm not really sure whether the people here do that on purpose. Okay, in the sense that they make it for fun. They make it for fun. This is called a language play. Okay, language play. Maybe they just simply don't have language competence. But in the context of sociolinguistics of globalizations, Prof. Safnil, we are not talking about
Right
whether this is right or wrong. Okay, we are not aiming at prescriptivism.
Okay.
We are not talking about prescriptivism. We are talking about what people use. That's phenomenon. That's phenomenon. Language, people manipulate the language to suit their own purposes, either for fun, either they just want to make it funny. Okay, if they in fact don't have language competence, then that would be okay. So in the terms of sociolinguistic competence, sociolinguistic of globalization, full command of language or highly advanced language proficiency is not needed. So we are as scholars, we are describing, oh, this is the sociolinguistic phenomenon.
Yeah,
In certain
teachers,
contexts, in certain localities, of course,
right.
in certain contexts.
Teachers often look at it as a mistake, yeah, because they are very they concerned about grammar, yeah, spelling, yeah. Okay, thank you, Prof. Sutiano. Okay,
Right. So
yeah,
that is I think, if I may add, Prof. Safnil, we have been so engrossed in standard language, so that we tend to ignore the liveliness of practicing linguistic in certain contexts. Therefore, in the implication here, the third point, I think especially important for me, when you teach your students and your student here bring with them their linguistic repertoire and semiotic resources, it could be the case that the students take up the issue, as Prof. Safnil has said before, to the teachers, and the teachers must not say, oh, this is wrong, this is a mistake. So do not look at this from the perspective of standard English, but from the perspective of localities where English is used. That's actually the idea, Prof. Safnil.
okay, thank you. Okay, question, please, students. Okay, please What's your question? We have
I
just
have question, Pak.
yeah, please.
Okay, my question is, as we know, in communication, we usually use the verbal language or the sentence or the linguistic. So, what are the function of semiotic or sign in communication and the register of using the semiotic in the communication? That's my question,
The
Pak.
function of semiotic, yeah. Okay,
Yes.
Prof. Setiono.
Thank you.
Yeah, the idea is this, because a language speaker is resourceful, okay, because a language speaker is resourceful, then the speaker here can use any kinds of semiotic resources in order to achieve their communicative purposes. That's the idea. So therefore, therefore the idea of that native speakers or non-native speakers, for instance, this is no longer useful, a dichotomy, right? People tend to use language users. Even students are language users. Okay, we cannot label the students. They are what should I call this? We cannot label the students language learners. They are language users. Okay, if you say the terms language learners, it might give the impressions that these students are no competence in using the language, but in fact they are competent language users. So the idea here is language users rather than language learners. And if you mediated by communicative media like the Facebook and then TikTok, right? And then Instagram, look at young people. These young people here are very proficient in using the language, and they are language users. Okay, in using the language here does not necessarily means that language in conventional term, but in the contemporary terms of sociolinguistic, they are resourceful because they have resources. They always deploy resources in meaning making, be it in the form of linguistic verbal linguistics repertoires and other semiotic resources. They use emoticons, they use symbols, right, to communicate their ideas.
So in the classroom, for example, the students use symbols to respond to teachers. Do we allow them to do that?
In the context of, for instance, like what, Prof. Safnil?
Yeah, we say something and the students agree with it. So instead of saying, I agree, you are right, but the student use thumbs, for example.
Okay. Yeah. So again, this is depending on the cultural sensitivity, of course. Okay. It could be the case and in the formal classroom. Okay, because we still have a norms, right? We still have a cultural norms that must be respected. Then of course, then the it doesn't mean that by resourcefulness that you can what is it? You can use these resources at the expense of other norms, cultural norms, for instance.
Okay.
As Eastern people, of course, we need to follow certain rules, right?
I think it would be interesting, to do research on this. Yeah,
right.
So we have just written an article, Prof. Setiono. It will be published in Sage.
Sage, right.
Yeah, maybe this month or next month. Yeah, with Yeti Zainil from Padang State University. The title is Teachers' Perception of the Code Switching Practices in English as a Foreign Language Class.
I see.
So how do teachers perceive the use of mixed languages?
I see.
It will be published.
What are the general findings, Prof. Safni?
Mix. Yeah, some teachers believe this is not the right way to do. Some accept it as communicative goal to make it easy for the student. Instead of the students don't understand anything, it is better to use Indonesian and English in the class.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, because teachers often think that achieving the curriculum goals is the main objective of them. So it is not useful if we use English, but the student don't understand.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
So it is better to use some Indonesian words or sentences, yeah, to make the student understand, especially when teaching the complicated aspect of the language, like grammar.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So here,
Yeah.
here means that linguistic differences is no deficit.
No. Yeah.
Right. It's not a science of language deficit.
Even in one of Bengkulu district, that's in Rejang, Curug, yeah, Rejang Lebong, a professor from Ohio University, a late Professor Dick McGinn, used Rejang language to teach Indonesian to Bengkulu students.
Oh, okay.
Because what he wants is not to make the local language extinct.
Okay. Yeah.
Because when the teachers use Indonesian to teach Bengkulu students at a primary school to teach Indonesian,
Okay.
it will be difficult for the students because the students don't speak Indonesian.
All right.
Teachers don't speak a local language. So that is the problem.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So why don't we use a local language to introduce a new language? So that's
right.
the new
Right.
idea. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
That's a very excellent ideas. Okay. Use the local language to introduce.
Yeah, the new language, Indonesian
language.
or English.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So killing two birds with one stone.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
And research also has shown that once you have a solid foundation in your native language, then it makes you easier to learn the second language and other new languages.
And there is an interesting study in India, actually. When English is used as a medium of instruction for primary schools, for any language, for any subjects, the result is the students' English is much better, but the students' understanding on other subjects like mathematics and sciences are less, lower than when they use Hindi or Urdu language, local language.
Oh, okay.
So it is good for English, for language development, but not for other subjects.
Other subjects.
Yes.
I see. Yeah. Very interesting finding, Prof. Samir.
Yeah. So I heard this in a seminar in Malacca before. Yeah. Okay. Maybe more question from the students, please. Silakan. Ada pertanyaan?
Pak, I have question.
Okay. Yeah. Please.
Pak, as a teacher, how can we make the balancing about using the target language and also our local language in teaching? In terms that we should take the second language acquisition into account.
Okay, from Nanda Tul,
yeah? Because I ever read that the teacher should provide the atmosphere and using the target language in the classroom and giving the instruction also using the simple language, but in the target language to take the second language acquisition into account.
Is it according to the curriculum or what? The curriculum says that?
I read in the Tomlinson book.
Oh, okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Prof. Setiano, the balance of target language and local language.
I think again, I refer to research in bilingual educations and bilingualisms. And research has shown the significant impact. Okay, if the teachers and the students use two languages at the same time, okay, they use two languages at the same time. For instance, in explaining English using the student's mother tongue, they are more likely to acquire second language easier. To use Crescent's comprehensible input, if the students know or are proficient in his native language, and you teach English later to the students, then it makes the learning of English becomes more comprehensible. Okay, that's Crescent. Stephen Crescent has repeatedly demonstrated that those who have strong background in the student's mother tongue, okay, learning the second language becomes more comprehensible. And when I reflect this, when I reflect Crescent's remarks, and as an Indonesian, as a non-native speaker of English, when I was in kindergarten, when I was in a elementary school, I use Bahasa Indonesia, okay, meaning that Indonesian language is my native language. I don't speak local dialects. I don't speak local dialects. I use Bahasa Indonesia. I read in Indonesian. I speak with my teachers in Indonesian at that time when I was kindergarten, senior high school. Even when I was in senior high school, junior high schools, I learned English, but our communication was in Indonesian. I read in Bahasa Indonesia. I read books written by Indonesian writers, Indonesian authors. But when I learn second language, because I have these strong backgrounds in my native language, it makes me easier. Okay, learning the second language, in this case, English. That's what I can share with you, Nandatul. Okay, so there is no worry that when you expose your students, when you expose your students with their native languages, then learning English will become difficult. Okay, you should not worry about it.
Yeah, I have a lecturer from New Zealand. Yeah, what is his name? John Honeyfield. Yeah.
Okay.
He asked us when I was doing my undergraduate. He asked us, what is more important, the student learn something or the teachers teach something? And we all agree that the teachers teach something, not the student learn something. And he said, oh, it is wrong. It is more important the students learn something,
right.
Yeah, then the teachers teach something. So we are very subjective, yeah, and ego. We don't think that we teach, yeah, unless, yeah, we teach, we achieve something in teaching. We don't really care whether the students get something from our teaching. Yeah. Okay, maybe more questions? Yeah, please.
Thank you, Pak.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Nandatul.
Yeah, question? More questions?
So I think what I have presented today hopefully can inspire you not only to apply this in your classroom, but also to do research, okay, based on this concept. And this is very timely when I research, when I read journals, okay, linguistics journals, sociolinguistic journals, and the idea of sociolinguistics of mobility here is gain prominence. Is gaining prominence among scholars today. Okay, I think you can, if you teach English in a certain locality like Bengkulu, okay, and other regions in Bengkulu, I think you can elevate local issues, okay, that you can find there from the perspective of sociolinguistic of globalization. Chances are, if you do this seriously, and if you research this seriously, maybe you can co-author with Professor Savnil. Chances are your articles will spark new insights, and I'm sure that it can be accepted in certain journal. Okay.
Yeah, Professor Tiano, about I think 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago, I watched a conference, just through YouTube. The topic is about English as a medium instruction and translanguaging.
Okay.
So they combine these two topics into one. I think the purpose is they consider chord mixing will happen normally if we use English as a medium of instruction at higher level, maybe for university students.
Okay.
Is it why they combine these two topics in one conference, you think?
Yeah, basically the idea of translingualism, the idea of language mixing is not new actually. It happens a long time ago. But what is new here is the way people theorize this old phenomenon. So for me, language mixing, language, whatever you say, language switching, okay, language meshing happened a long time ago. So what people are doing now is to look at this old phenomenon from a new perspective of theory, Prof. Safri.
Yes.
They try to conceptualize from different vantage points, Prof. Safri. I think this is what they are doing now. They try to generate new insights. They try to theorize certain they are trying to theorize this old phenomenon, I mean, from different kinds of perspective and from different kinds of localities. Therefore, we can see that scholars who are theorizing this phenomenon comes from diverse geographical areas. Japan, right? China, okay, and then India, Sri Lanka. But unfortunately, very few our scholars, Indonesian scholars, who try to theorize this. Though of course we are very rich actually, right? Translingualisms are here. Translingualism happened here in Indonesia a long time ago. Now I think it's high time for us to try to elevate these localities, our rich localities, from the perspective of translingualism.
Who are the researchers? Who are the researchers? Are they linguists or applied linguists?
Translingualism can be linguist, can be applied linguism, depending on what is the focus. Translingualism can happen in education. Translingualism can happen also in public spaces, like the example of two zoos that I've shown. translingualism can happen in many areas, many registers, Prof. Safni. So depending on if we are educators, if we are applied linguists, then we theorize from the perspective of applied linguistics.
Or language education, yeah.
Education.
Okay. Thank you very much, Prof.
Yeah.
Setiono. It is a very interesting topic, and hopefully students get a lot from this lecture, and give them some ideas, new ideas for their thesis, because they are now thinking about what to do for their research, for their thesis.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's all for our class today. Or do you want to say something, Prof. Setiano?
Yeah, I
this?
do hope that again by my sharing today can inspire you to do kinds of research, okay, by taking the data in your own localities. Okay, that will help enrich perspectives, okay, in sociolinguistic of globalization.
And don't just look at it from a prescriptive point of view. Yeah, look at it from descriptive point of view.
The descriptive point of view. Otherwise, we are always being trapped, as if we find certain what I call a mundane sociolinguistic phenomena in certain locality, if we look at from the angle of prescriptivism, we tend to judge. We tend to judge rather than to explain this phenomena. We are not judging when we are applying a sociolinguistics of globalization. We are not judging. We are trying to explain this phenomenon.
Describing, yeah.
Right. We try to describe. This is a very valid, okay, is lively phenomenon in our culture, in our situation, in our localities.
Okay, thank you very much. Prof. Setiano, please close the sharing the slides.
Okay,
yeah. So we can take photos together.
Right.
There's stop sharing. Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Okay. Now, please take photos for us together.
Okay.
Who will do that?
Maybe everyone
Arin?
can.
Please take photos.
Yeah, maybe everyone can open the video.
Yeah.
All right, so that we can take photo together.
Okay, please. Who will do this and send it to Istiana? Will you do that?
I'm sorry, Pak. I use
Tania?
I will, Pak.
Okay, thank you, Chandra. Please send it to our WhatsApp group, yeah? There are 2 pages. Yeah. Your camera, yeah. Arin, Chandra. Okay, yeah. Okay, Chandra, Istiana, and Ibu Irma. Maybe Ibu Irma is not here. Istiana, Ririn, Arin, and Stephanie. Stephanie, are you here? Istiana, Ririn, Stephanie. Okay. Finish taking photos?
Yes, Pak.
Okay, thank you very much, Prof. Setiano, again.
Thank you.
Hopefully,
thank you, everyone.
Yeah, one day we can have another lecture. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
We will also later, Prof. Safnil, I hope in this near future will ask you to be one of the external examiners of our doctorate students dissertation,
Okay.
Prof. Sapnil. Would that be okay, Prof?
Okay. Yeah.
All right. I
Thank
will contact you.
And hopefully
later.
we can sign the MOU, yeah?
Yeah, it's still being sent to,
Okay.
we are planning to send it to the legal office of the university, Prof. Sapnil.
Okay. Thank you very much, Prof. Cirino and
everyone.
students. Yeah, that's all for our lecture for today. And next week we'll come back to the normal activities of students presenting the topic. Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And
thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you, Pak.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Pak.
Bye.
Kelas masih online ya, Prof. Sapnil ya?
Masih
Masih online ya?
Masih online kita ya.
Berarti belum berani tatap muka ya?
Ujian tatap muka.
Oh, ujian tatap muka.
Ujian
tapi...
tesis ya. Ujian saja. Kalau seminar tidak.
Oh, seminar sama kelas biasa tetap ini ya, tetap online ya.
Ya, semester ini belum tahu semester depan.
Tapi tidak ini ya, jumlah tidak bertambah ya di Bengkulu ya. Jumlah yang terkena ya.
Ini fluktuasi.
Oh, fluktuasi ya.
Kadang kurang. Karena kalau kurang orang mulai lengah.
Oh sih, oke.
Mulai aktif lagi. Ya, mulai kumpul-kumpul lagi, naik lagi dia.
Naik lagi. Oh, oke, baik.
Gitu.
Jadi tergantung pada masing-masing individunya ya, Prof. Sapnil ya. Menjaga ya. Baik, Prof. Sapnil, terima kasih semuanya.
Oke, ya, terima kasih.
Everyone, stay safe, stay healthy. Bye.
Ya.